So Fox does this thing where they go to different places sometimes and just put a camera on the people that are there and ask them questions. One of these questions is apparently who should be the 2024 GOP nominee. So they asked Turning Point USA, Toilet Paper USA attendees. This is a conference that took place this weekend. One of our longtime community members shares a B-Day post with you. Pretty nice post. Here we go. A year ago, I was one of the lowest points in my life, barely overcoming a crippling addiction and essentially wandering around aimless. A year later, I'm glad to say I'm happier, more confident, 60 pounds lighter, and looking forward to what the future may hold. Thank you all. Oh, that's awesome. Congratulations, yes. Good shit. Proud of you. And you got a monkey? What the fuck? I mean, I feel like that should be addressed. That's pretty cool. That's like I dropped 60 pounds and now have an emotional support monkey. Like, what the fuck? Monkeys as pets is pretty cruel. Is it? Yeah, I mean, no, a chained monkey, that's not cool. I don't think he has a pet monkey. I'm just kidding. I live 5 minutes away from where this was held. It was such wild to see Nazis. Oh, let's get back to Turning Point USA though. So Toilet Paper USA is a organization that I guess my like Bizarro Hasan evil counterpart Charlie Kirk created. It was originally backed by Foster Freeze, rest in piss, who fucking died like I think last year or 2 years ago. I don't even know at this point. He's the dude that got owned by Barb's in a Twitter space during the Barb's arc, by the way. Yeah, no, I remember. Yaz said he's working on freeing the monkey. Nice. Free that monkey. Um, so Bizarro Hasan has a gigantic skull but a tiny face. Normal Hasan, me, has a normal skull and a normal face, okay? But it sometimes looks kind of small because my shoulders are very wide. That's whatever. You guys already know I've debated Charlie Kirk multiple times. It's kind of weird watching our careers progress. As at a certain point in time, he was seen as my like peer, my conservative counterpart, and of course, given how conservatives love hugging, kissing, and uplifting their own internet commentators and like bringing them up in their scout talent programs in a way that like MSNBC never would for someone like myself. Charlie Kirk ended up basically going from debating me to setting up Toilet Paper USA, Turning Point USA, getting hundreds of millions of dollars of funding, and you know, and setting up conferences, becoming friends with Donald Trump and the Trump family, whereas Obama doesn't know I exist. I mean, look at this. This is from 2017. This is the first time Charlie and I faced off at Politicon, and then we did it again in 2018. And, you know, this was a wonderful conversation. I think we faced off again in 2018 or 2019. I don't really remember. And since then, this dude is like literally fucking, I mean, he's just like tight with, been on Fox News a million times over, and he has a fucking massive conference that like every conservative commentator and every conservative politician attends. You think the squad has a duty to build the ecosystem of the American left? I mean, they are doing that, I think. Yeah. Would it be correct to call you the John Fetterman of California? What? I don't know. I've been on Fox as well, but not as a positive. It's just interesting to see, like, how someone on the left, like a young commentator on the left, and a young commentator on the right, and like where they go is interesting to recognize. I think part of this imbalance is that the right recognize. Oh, this was Yashar Ali. What's your response to this question? And before you get into ideology, it's about power and influence. I feel like the left doesn't have as many influential non-legacy media personalities that we do. Like, what's the left-wing equivalent to Candace or Ben? Who are legit celebs now? I think I'm one of them, but I saw this tweet. Taylor wrote about this. I think part of this imbalance is that the right recognized the power of the internet and creator economy early and leaned hard into it. Liberals in power still live in an alternate, dying reality where they think things like cable news are relevant. By refusing to acknowledge the shifting media landscape, liberals continue to ground across most of the internet to conservatives. There are some big leftist personalities online like Hasan, etc., undeniably, but there hasn't been a concerted effort by the party to embrace those people. Obviously, there are many other factors at play, like the fact that the algos that distribute content on social media are built to reward right-wing ideology and outrage campaigns, and massive creators to speak to young people are shunned by liberal establishment for being too progressive. Yeah. So that's a big part of it is like the ideological differences between the Republican Party and how the Republican media infrastructure props up the Republican Party and actually propagandizes the Republican Party, but also creates new talking points for the Republican Party. It is a perfectly symbiotic ecosystem relationship that it's an ecosystem in which the media, the Republican media, the reactionary media, no matter how radical they are in a perfectly symbiotic relationship with the party. Whereas the Democratic Party hates its fucking base. It hates the most outspoken people in its base and sees people like myself as a nuisance, as a spoiler, someone who's too radical and his opinions are not actually popular. But even if they were popular, they simply could not push for that. They could not advocate for that because, it's just too, pie in the sky, these ideas. Fox News and Charlie Kirk share an ideology. MSNBC and leftists don't. They have every incentive not to ever have you on TV or funnel any more money to you, raising your visibility. Is exactly correct. That is the reality. But even then, there are liberals like Brian Taylor Cohen or whatever, Tyler Cohen, who still doesn't get propped up by MSNBC. So there are actually like liberal content creators that still don't get the coverage from MSNBC. That's the thing. Like, there are very few people that the liberal media ecosystem actually plucks from the internet and then props up. They don't do that. They never do that. Think about it. Does John Oliver count? No, John Oliver is a comedian who was on his own more leftist than the average American pundit on TV, but that's it. That's completely separate. That's on HBO. We're not talking about MSNBC. We're not talking about CNN. There is no like Fox News style equivalent. You don't have that. But John Oliver started alongside Jon Stewart. It would not be advantageous to liberals to embrace those who speak out against the concentration of capital. I mean, yes, that is a part of it. But like, it is interesting to see that though, because I mean, obviously Republicans and internet Republicans, like internet commentators and the base are united both ideologically and also with what they advocate for. No matter how radical you get on the right, the further right you go, you will never actually strike capital. You will never actually be an anti-capitalist. So as long as you are pro-capitalism, then everything you fucking advocate for, as like Charlie Kirk does regularly, everything that Charlie Kirk advocates for is still pro-capitalism. And he's just finding new ways of like deflecting the responsibility away from the centers of power inside of this economic organization of society. Same goes for liberals as well. They want to play the song and dance. They want to play the game that like Republicans are bad. Republicans play the game that liberals are bad and immigrants are bad and yada, yada, yada. And Democrats want to play the game of saying like Republicans are bad. They're simply standing in the way of progress. But ultimately, any kind of anti-capitalist means of progress is stopped both the liberals and the Republicans are pro-capitalist. So you are truly outside of that. You are truly outside of that Overton window if you advocate against capitalism in a meaningful capacity. And when you advocate against capitalism in a meaningful capacity, they're just never going to prop you up in a similar way. They're just not going to do that. It doesn't help that the big networks are owned by pro-capitalists, so they don't get anything left-leaning similar to Fox News. Well, just remember, ultimately, Fox News, no matter how radical they get, are never going to be truly radical in the sense that they're going to speak out against capitalism. They're not. The only person on Fox News that actually looks like he's anti-capitalist is actually not anti-capitalist. He's just a fucking libertarian, Tucker Carlson, who only uses pro-worker rhetoric as a means to further justify or to further plant his white nationalist ideology in the hearts and minds of people. Do you understand? There's never going to be a concerned effort by Tucker Carlson to be like, we need to fucking make sure that Amazon is unionizing everywhere across the board. We need to bring back unions. Like, he only cares about that as much as he can say Jeff Bezos fucking sucks. You know what I mean? That's it. A big part, too, is because we have a geriatric leadership who are desperately clinging on the power to know that the younger progressives aren't going to vote for them. Example, Pelosi backing Cuellar, who's pro-life. Pelosi knows Cuellar would be a solid vote to keep her as the Speaker of the House. Progressives also tend to call out mainstream media. That, too. So, you know, that's the reality. That's why the landscape looks the way it does. But how do we get here? Well, we were talking about the differences between Republican media. We were looking at the difference between Republican media and Democrat media. And here we are. This is the Turning Point USA conference that happened over this weekend. We watched a bunch of the clips from it yesterday. They were pretty funny. Let's see what the attendees think who the clear front runner is. Major speakers in the event included Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and former President Donald Trump. Both are possible 2024 GOP nominees, but the attendees generally favored one over the other.
Donald Trump, of course, the man himself. He created the MAGA movement, and he deserves to be our leader. Look, he's not perfect in every way, but he really deserves to be our leader. He really shook the swamp, and no one else in the current Republican Party can do that the way he did.
I love DeSantis, but Trump is a little bit...
It's pretty funny that the arguments have stayed the exact same, by the way. Conservatives love conserving the same talking points, as you guys know, as we've talked about many times over. But they do love DeSantis, and that is a little terrifying. That is something to consider. That is something to be fearful of, okay? Just remind yourself of that. But also, the arguments are the same. He shook the swamp. It's like, how did he shake the swamp? He 100% did not shake the swamp. That is fucking bullshit. There was no shaking of the motherfucking swamp, dude.
bit more, going to push it. Not that DeSantis won't, but I think he needs to come in and fix the mess that's been made.
I would really like it to be Governor DeSantis. I'm a pretty big fan of him. I like what he's done with Florida, how we've been pretty open here during the pandemic, and just a lot of, focusing on families has been a big thing. That's something I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I think we've had enough time without Trump now to realize that we do really miss him. Even the liberals are kind of like, we miss him. So I think it's time that we let him come back and kind of clean up the mess we got ourselves into, and then maybe DeSantis after that as president would be pretty cool.
I would honestly like to see Donald Trump, but I feel like it could be hard since I know he's seen as very problematic in America, but I do think he can save America.
God, dude, it's just problematic. It's so funny watching Zoomers and young conservatives use terms that otherwise liberal activists were using. Donald Trump is a bit problematic. It's like, dude, you think? That's the main problem with Donald Trump. Is he's problematic.
Are kind of like, we miss him. So I think it's time that we let him come back and kind of clean up the mess we got ourselves into, and then.
Yeah, thank God.
Hard since I know he's seen as very problematic in America, but I do.
Yeah, he's seen as like kind of problematic in America. You know, like the January 6th thing was like not the best, obviously. You know what I mean? When he was like goading people into doing an insurrection, and then they tried to do that insurrection, which was kind of problematic. Not the worst thing, but you know, the bare bones of his movement and his impact, his actions have a lot of staying power. For example, you know, the abolition of abortion protections in this country, wholesale, wonderful stuff. Speaking of which, shouts out the motherfucking, is it Indiana or Idaho? I'm going to fuck this up again. Boss man, raid on Cobra Tate, what? Indiana is doing an emergency meeting to ban abortions today. That meeting is going to go on for that state legislature emergency meeting is going to go on for weeks as they try to, I keep fucking that up, as they try to figure out like how and why they should ban abortion in that fucking state too. You know, the state that saved the life of a 10-year-old because they had not been able to ban abortions at that point because they were all on fucking vacation. So the 10-year-old who was raped in Ohio was able to go and get an abortion in Indiana.
Do you think he can save America and help fix a lot of the issues that are going on right now?
I would love to see Tim Scott make a run for it. I think he represents the party really well.
What?
It brings a new voice and a new kind of vibe to the new energy that we're seeing in the conservative movement.
What? No, this person said that specifically because she's like trying to be different. Tim Scott? Who the fuck is a fan of Tim Scott? That's so weird. What the fuck? Yo, I swear, no, this is like when you try to be like, I'm a little different than everybody else. I know everyone's saying DeSantis or Donald Trump, but I like Tim Scott. For those of you who don't know who Tim Scott is is wheeled out every fucking CPAC and every conservative at every conservative gathering to come out and as a black Republican say, you know, that the Republican Party is not racist. That's like his primary positioning in the Republican Party. She probably works for Tim Scott. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. There's no shot that like anyone would ever mention him in any other meaningful capacity considering how fucking boring he is too. Like it's weird. Dems are Klansmen. Good one. Dirty Merlin. Thank you for that. And thank you for that incredible take.
So I would really like to see him run.
Honestly, I would love to see President Trump re-enter the election again because I think he just did something that no other president could have done for the conservative movement in the state that we're in right now.
I think the best presidential nominee would be Donald Trump. I love guys like Ron DeSantis as well, but Donald Trump he's proven he knows how to run the country, especially comparing him to the guy running it now. He's done it before, and I think he can do it again.
Ooh, it's a tough question. I go back and forth between Trump and DeSantis.
It's a tie between Trump and DeSantis. Maybe both. Maybe Trump, DeSantis.
So yeah, they still love Donald Trump. They still want Big Daddy Trump to come back.